And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, sir. How are we doing?
Good. I'm trying to figure out where I can get me some General Booty underwear. That's been occupying me most of today. No, I'm doing great. I'm excited. It is practically football season, with the sense that Florida fans are up my ass. It is like Nothing has changed. Yeah, pause. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I tweeted about somebody tagged me in a comment about the game. I said that I still think Utah is going to win it. 30 people bookmarked my comment. They are so butthurt. The game has not even been played yet. They're so confident, too. That's what I don't get.
So, look, on this Florida-Utah thing, I am fully prepared to lose on my pick. Like, I am 100% okay with being wrong here, right? Like, if Utah wins, yeah, okay, Utah won, right? Like, okay. But I just don't think people like – so a kid played in a bowl game a couple years ago, and I'm supposed to overreact to that against a depleted Ohio State secondary. Okay, well, if he was that good, why didn't he transfer? If he was that good, why didn't he play over Cam Rising? If he was supposed to be the next coming of Jesus Christ, why isn't he playing? Why didn't he transfer? There are a lot of questions that I have about this. And look, Florida might not win, probably won't win. But I do think there's something to be said about going against a team in the Power 5 when a guy's making his real and true first start against a team. I'm leaning Florida, dude. Like, I'm taking the points. I'm taking the money line. Whatever. Like, okay. There's a reason, Joe, that it's moved. The line has moved that much. That's how much Cam Rising means to this team.
Well, the line's moving because everyone's betting with that thought philosophy that they want to bank on the fact that no Cam Rising means that they're going to struggle and that this game is going to be close or Florida's going to pull out the victory. We're going to end up talking about this at the end of the show when we do our game picks. But my whole point is like this absurd confidence on Florida's fan base's side is really strange to me, because with Cam Rising, you're at a serious disadvantage. Without him, it's not like that's a guaranteed lock now for Georgia. You're still traveling on for Florida. You're traveling on the road to a difficult situation. And I know what you're saying, that with Bryson Barnes, like, how much do we really buy into this kid? Him not having really played that much. He's got a couple nice games on film for filling in for Cam Rising. He's still a good player. You know, he's not like he has put better film on tape than Graham Mertz has put on tape. And Graham Mertz has been talked about as some freaking, Heisman quality player during training camp. And you know what I have to say to that? No, there have been quotes out there that
BS. He has been taking it from everybody. Pause. But he has been taking it from everybody this offseason about how bad he sucks.
There has been some absurd quotes from the Florida coaching staff that I will pull up in a second. That
the Paul Chris thing?
No, I don't know. It wasn't that.
Okay. Well, we'll talk on that. We'll talk LSU, Florida State here tonight, North Carolina, USC, Clemson, Duke, and then we'll make our picks. So, look, let's not waste all of our time here on Florida, but if you want to mention out of the break, look, General Booty getting an NIL deal with some underwear with booty across the booty is pretty clever, but it's the commercial, him riding a horse in only underwear, that I'm like, I quote tweeted this today. I'm like, what are we doing?
That's my whole point that I was saying to you before the show. Like, I get the play, the name of it makes total sense, because like you have to have an underwear line. Your name is General Booty. You're not even playing, but you have to have an underwear line. It's required just with that name. But at the same time, who is he marketing this to? Because that commercial is not really marketing for Oklahoma fans that would be wearing the underwear.
Yeah, I don't think that they're selling any of that. I really don't. But I'm not spending my time talking about a man in underwear. I'm just not. Unless Joe Burrow does it, then I'll talk about it.
That's the exception? That's the exception?
Yeah, that's the exception. That's the exception to any rule. Joe Burrow. It's like when you go to Sunday school and you say Jesus, 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to be right. Jesus, and you say Jesus, you got to have the us, high pitch there at the end. So anyway, all right. We got a lot to get into. Big game, big matchup this weekend, Florida State and LSU. Mm-hmm. North Carolina, South Carolina, Clemson and Duke. Duke's defense is not anything to look over. So it'll be interesting to talk about those games here tonight. Joe, I will tell you, I'm really intrigued about Minnesota and Nebraska. Okay, another game that I'm really intrigued about. Games that Big Game Boomer, our buddy Big Game Boomer, has attended. The home team has lost. So Minnesota could be on upset alert.
How many games has he attended?
I think like 3, and all of the whole home teams have lost.
So he is going to be there in attendance for that game.
Apparently so. He posted a picture of Minnesota today.
Uh-oh.
Might be taking Matt Rule. Massive upset week 1.
That's a good betting pick to make. Thank you for that line there.
Well, I'm not going to do it because every time I try to do the opposite of that dude, somehow chaos revolves around that guy. So I'm completely staying away from it. All right.
Smart
Let's
move.
get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those social media groups. If you're on Facebook, y'all been doing such a great job and doing us such a massive favor by sharing to those groups, sharing to your own social media pages. If you're listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell. Help us out with that algorithm. Get us some more followers and listeners here tonight. Wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're watching us on Fubo TV, welcome. Let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. Don't go anywhere. Big matchup. We talk about it next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. We're back. Texas isn't, but maybe they are. I'm going to tell you, I told you this last week or Monday. I'm going to tell you this again. Maybe I said it on AYS. I don't know if I said it here. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, due to the nature of Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark and his remarks about the University of Texas going to Texas Tech and telling Coach McGuire that he's going to be at the game when they play Texas and he hopes that he beats them on Thanksgiving, Big 12 officials work for the Big 12 office. I'm going to give you a hot take. I don't think Texas is going to get a lot of favorable calls this year when it comes down to it. Because if there's a play that is 50-50, it goes to the Big 12 office. Remember I told you this. There's going to be some BS behind the Big 12 in Texas during the year. And look, I will side with Texas on this one. Probably the only thing. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but watch out.
I think it's an interesting point, and it's one that I'm going to pay attention to when Texas does play games, because everyone's pissed at that Big 12 office. They are not happy with Texas and Oklahoma out the door, and they have taken so many shots.
Oklahoma, though, Joe, they have not. Oklahoma has just been, all they do in Oklahoma is ride horses with their underwear on. I
don't know. Maybe that's the aspect of how high and mighty.
All right.
My point is that maybe it's the less of a grudge on Oklahoma and more on Texas for how high and mighty they act, and then they're stepping out the door, like they're the greatest team on the market when they haven't won the conference in 10 years.
True. Don't remember I told you that, and you're gonna be like,
oh, I will.
Maybe Blake was right. All right, I know that, and I asked to talk about this game last because I know that we'll talk about this game and people say, well, Blake wants to talk about it because he's biased.
No, I picked. I said I want to start with this game because it's the most important.
LSU, Florida State. Let me go ahead and go ahead and say what you got to say, because earlier today you picked Florida State to win. Now, obviously I didn't, but I don't think that you're off being just a general bystander on who you think wins this game. Let me preface that I think either team can win here. I don't think it's, it's not a hot take to say Florida State wins, but Florida State and LSU will match up against one another on Sunday, the premier game, the only game on Sunday in Orlando, spelled EAUX. What do you see in this Florida State LSU matchup?
I think the point that you make here, me as the bystander on the outside still have connections to LSU because I'm doing this show with you, that a lot of our listeners are LSU fans. Look, I'm not picking Florida State the way that I picked Utah to beat Florida or TCU to beat Colorado. Not going to sit here and bang on the table and say this game is going to be a blowout. Both of these teams, we spent so much time talking about the players, the coaches, everything about both of these rosters the whole offseason because they justifiably were in the spotlight. They dominated the transfer portal. They're bringing back some of the best players in the country, both of these teams. It could go either way, and I think that this game is going to be a nail-biter. It is going to be a very close, hard-fought battle. But when I pulled up both of these teams and I look at them and I compare matchups, offensive line versus defensive line, quarterback versus secondary, all those things, receivers versus secondary, who's got the better running backs, I was so fixated. And I actually almost picked LSU. That was my original gut check decision, was I was going to put down LSU and that was going to be my pick final. But I had this lingering thought that I can't go with that because of my concerns and questions that I have about LSU secondary. Now, this game, we could show up and LSU secondary could look amazing. And I'm going to immediately be eating my words if things go according to plan. But because I'm unsure, I can't commit to a pick that I have uncertainty in. So I think Florida State will win this football game by a very slight margin if it comes down to an important passing play at the end of the game. And there's a completion that keeps Florida State in the victory column.
All right. What would be your score prediction then?
I feel like it's going to be high scoring. I mean, I didn't write down a score prediction, but I feel like, maybe something like 38-35. I feel like both these teams have such good receivers that there's just going to be so much offense.
All right. I don't disagree with your logic, right? I don't think you said anything wrong. Joe, I do think if, do you watch Marvel movies?
Yes.
Now they have like the multiverse and different dimensions. Okay. LSU and Florida State are mirror images of each other, just maybe in different dimensions. Okay. Both have 5-year senior plus quarterbacks. Both return a lot of offensive linemen. Both have really good wide receivers. Both have really good defensive linemen. Both have a defensive tackle that is out for this game that nobody 2 weeks ago thought would be out of this game. When I look at these matchups, and this matchup specifically, I do think LSU's offensive line is built better this year to protect Jane Daniels than they were a year ago. They had a true freshman at left tackle that started, Cam Wire, who was at right tackle, is now at Tulane. He gave up 3 sacks in that game. It was not really fair to Jaden Daniels to ask him to run out there and say, save us, but he almost did. I do agree with you that I do think that this game is going to be high scoring. Here's why. That game was not great last year. Both teams had missed opportunities. Multiple times Florida State couldn't score in the red zone. LSU fumbled or muffed 2 punts. Florida State would get the ball back. But Jane Daniels did go 99 yards against Florida State and scored there at the end. They missed the extra point. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. With everything being even, I go Jane Daniels to get him over the hump. I go coaching staff to get him over the hump. I do think Jane Daniels is better than Jordan Travis, and I do believe that Brian Kelly and his staff are better than what Mike Norvell and his staff is. I know Alex Atkins is good. I know they have a very competent staff. But I can't believe that I have to tell a Notre Dame guy this. Brian Kelly's a better coach than Mike Norvell is.
Okay.
And I do believe when you have two teams that are eerily similar, the coach that is better prepared and maybe has more athletes here and there, they win those games. Joe, Brian Kelly wrote a lot of the wrongs that he had at Notre Dame last November when he beat Nick Saban at home in Baton Rouge. He wrote a lot of wrongs. A lot of people had written him off that he couldn't beat Nick Saban. Joe, we act like they were a bad team last year. They were 11-2. The only reason they were 11-2 and didn't win the West is because of Brian Kelly. I think that Jane Daniels leads LSU to a victory. I think that Brian Kelly leads them to the victory, and they're going to trade punches all night long. I don't think either team's going to have massive amounts of success early running the football, but whatever team leans on each other and is more conditioned, more disciplined at the end is going to win this. I've already made my prediction. I think it's 38-31 LSU. If it came down to it and you put a gun in my head and said, Blake, do you think Florida State can win this game? Well, Joe, I picked them to make it in the playoff. It's the only loss that I have on their schedule. I think they can beat Clemson twice. I don't know. Flip a coin. But I do think LSU does have an advantage in certain areas that matter, and that's why I picked LSU.
I think that's actually a really good point. It's kind of funny that you would think that this game maybe we'd be yelling at each other more about, but it's one of the few instances I think where we can sit down here and we can both acknowledge where certain sides of the coin are going to be factored into this game. And I understand what you're talking about there with the coaching staff. And that was originally why my gut was so close to relying on and going with LSU, is that they've got a battle-tested head coach who has actually won important big football games in Brian Kelly. As much as I joke about Brian Kelly being bad at preparing his teams for big-time matchups and being a Notre Dame fan and having seen him screw up games like this time and time again, he still has wins in important games. And the Alabama game is pretty recent. That is a lot of momentum, and the momentum that they have in the offseason with that coaching staff is going to help them set up for this victory. Here's one thing that really, I said this on another show, and I kind of want to bring it up. Kind of has nothing to do with the game, but it does. I'm going to be so pissed if this game is lopsided one way or the other. I'm going to be so upset if this isn't a really good game like last year, because last year was really fun. It was chaotic and it was hectic. I know it was stressful for you and it didn't go the way that you wanted it to. But if this game doesn't live up to the hype being as good of a matchup it is, I'm going to be so sad. So sad.
J-Rock AZ says that it's Jordan Travis by a long shot.
They're pretty close to one another.
But here's like the thing,
mirror images of one another.
Jane Daniels was 266 for 388 last year, 69% completion percentage. Jordan Travis was 64% completion percentage. Daniels had 2,913 passing yards. Travis had 3,214. Jaden had 17 passing touchdowns, 1 receiving, 3 interceptions. Travis had 24. Daniels rushed net rushing yards for 1,207 yards and 11 touchdowns, accumulating 29 total. Travis had 82 carries, 417 yards, 7 TDs on the ground, 31 total. Everybody that continues to come in here, and I've seen it on Twitter, Florida State fans are really confident in this game. And I had to go off on them last night. They were still on the show. Joe, I had 182 comments at the end of my AYS show last night. 2/3 of them are from Florida State fans.
Really?
Yeah. All of them saying that they're going to blow out LSU. Sounds good.
All right.
The one thing that bothers me the most is that LSU understands what Jordan Travis is and how good he can be. The simple nature that these freaking Rudy Poos can't do that for Jaden sounds good. But there's a reason he's number 2 in the Heisman Trophy odds. They're damn near identical, Joe. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. You can put their stats up against one another. They are almost identical every year. Every year. So do you Rudy Poo Florida State fans, I know that you can't read, some of you, and you don't have teeth. Look at the fucking sheet. Like, we see them in here. Like, I don't understand fans that cannot read numbers. Anyway.
Well, it's also
tonight.
Pull up the tape and I picked the Florida State, by the way, before anyone jumps down my throat in the comments. But if you pull up the tape and you watch both of them, they both have similar strengths and they both have similar deficiencies. One of them is not drastically better than the other. The only difference is one's got a better running back and maybe a better second receiver to go to, and that being Jordan Travis. So if one has a better game, it's going to be Travis because he's got the better supporting cast, if anything. It's not going to be because he's the better quarterback.
Well, and I can make the argument that LSU has a better offensive line than Florida State's. I do think LSU's O-line's built to sustain taking on the D-line like that. So, they say, well, Jared Verse went off last year. Yeah, he faced a guy that didn't play after that. Joe, Cam Wire, the starting right tackle, not only did he not start another game, he didn't play in another game. Like,
he transferred?
Yeah, he transferred to Tulane. Like, listen to what I'm saying.
Why did he play that game?
Huh?
Why did he play that game then?
Because the true freshman Emory Jones, I don't think that they thought was ready enough to take on a guy like Jared Verse. First game as a true freshman. He starts coming in against Southern, starts coming in against New Mexico, and then after New Mexico, it went off from there. He never looked back. Joe, he didn't play another game. Like, literally did not see the field and was still on the team. So we'll see. I do think that this has a lot of implications for the playoff because, listen, there's no margin for error for the team that loses. There's no wiggle room if you lose to get to the playoff for either one of these teams. I know that a lot of people say, well, Florida State still has Clemson. But I would rather, if it were me, I would rather have to face Clemson twice than to go through that SEC gauntlet. If you told me, like, which one I would rather do, go through Alabama and Georgia to get to the playoff or go through Clemson twice, I'd rather go through Clemson twice. Why would I want to go through Alabama and Georgia to have to get there? And God knows, God willing, what happens if Tennessee gets in there and their offense is doing good things under Joe Milton. We'll have to wait and see about that. But what if that happens? The losing team has no margin for error, and it's a crucial game. That's what makes this game so big. A lot of people think both of these teams can make the playoff, and that is what Sunday in prime time is going to all be about.
I actually push back a little bit on who can get hurt the most by this. I think, as you said, LSU has, I think, the most to lose if they lose this football game, because then there is zero margin for error for them the rest of the season. I think that if Florida State loses, though, that's actually, we talk about when it comes time to pick these teams, it doesn't become quality wins, it becomes quality losses. I think that looks really damn good if you're Florida State. If LSU is your one singular loss and you beat Clemson twice, that gets them into the playoff.
Oh, they're in. They're in.
That gets them in.
Especially if LSU were to run the table and win the SEC.
Exactly my point. Even if they don't, even if they finish with 3 losses and they just barely miss the playoff, that loss still looks really, really good on Florida State's resume. So I think that because of the softness of the ACC schedule, it does in a way help them if they lose this game, that they could then run the table. I mean, TCU made it with 1 loss, and their singular loss was the team that won the Big Ten championship game, or Big 12 rather. Yeah.
Right. And here's another crazy thing, Joe. They didn't move. They lost and didn't move in the rankings. That's what, that's a different topic for a different day. I'm going to say 38-31 LSU. You have 38-35 Florida State. We're not that far off. I do think that it's going to be a really close game, and I think it's going to be a really fun game. You want to move to this North Carolina and South Carolina game?
Let's do it.
All right, listen. We've talked all offseason or non-playing portion of the year about this game, and I've gotten a lot of pushback from you and others about South Carolina in this game. To me, this has nothing to do with South Carolina as much as it has to do with North Carolina's defense. They have not gotten better. Joe, they allowed close to and around 165 to 170 yards on the ground a year ago. They gave up 271 yards in the air last year. And by the way, they were 102nd in scoring defense. They didn't get better defensively anywhere. I know that they had some guys that come in, some guys returning, but if Spencer Rattler can do some of the things that he did against those defenses, Clemson, Tennessee, others, even though Tennessee's secondary was kind of bad, he can do that against North Carolina. Like, that's not a hot take for everybody saying that what he can do, what he did in the SEC last year. It's not a hot take about against a really bad defense. Now, Drake May is Drake May, and Drake May could go off. And North Carolina's only hope in this one, in my opinion, is if Drake May goes off. I don't think people give South Carolina enough credit for the dudes that they have. I really don't. They look at the portal departures, but they don't look at the additions.
Who did they add? I don't think
Joe,
I've said this before.
Nicholas Harbor might be the best freshman in all of the country.
But I don't even know what his contribution is going to be in this first year. He is the most physically gifted player in the country, but he's raw. Like, he's really, really raw. He was. A lot of people thought he was going to be an edge rusher.
You know where he's going to be raw in? The end zone.
It might take him a year to get to as productive as he.
And it might not.
Can be.
Joe, they came out. Shane Beamer came out after their scrimmage and said that he caught 2 touchdowns. With the first
he's going up against a bunch of nobodies in practice.
Here's the problem with that, though, Joe. If he's going against nobodies at South Carolina, give me a defense for North Carolina's defense, who was worse.
Look, here, I understand what you're saying. My big thing with this, though, is that they are very depleted. I understand that Nicholas Harbor is a really explosive, exciting athlete, and I can't wait to see what he does. I'm all for guys like that can make plays and stretch the field at his size. He's DK Metcalf. He's the next coming of DK, basically, the way that he's built. But at the same time, the only really good returning receiver coming back is Juice Wells, who was fantastic. But Jaheim Bell's gone. Marshawn Lloyd's gone. They lost a lot in the transfer portal and a bunch of guys to the NFL draft. As bad as North Carolina's defense and secondary is, I look at South Carolina's secondary losing 2 guys to the NFL. And the guy that they have returning, Marcellus Dial, is a name that has been brought up a lot in the preseason conversations of best players. But, like, that's it. I don't have a lot to go off of. I think that the way that this game is going to play out, it's going to be kind of the USC effect for UNC, where let's see how many points we can put up on the board and just outlast them. Maybe it's like a 45-30 type game to that extent.
Look, one thing you bet. Okay, I know you talk about Juice Wells. Trey Knox is there. Josh Simon is there at tight end. Xavier Leggett, Omega Blake. They do have some guys. They do have some playmakers that can go out. You know how I know? Let me tell you how I know. Jaheim Bell was not the only dude making plays out there last year.
No, but he was an important part of that offense that's now gone. Also Stogner's gone too.
Stogner's gone too, but Stogner at the end of the year wasn't playing.
That is true, but like Stogner, that room is still depleted.
Had a catch like the last 5 weeks of the year. By the way, they won the last 5 games they played.
Okay, I don't know if that's a correlative reason. I don't think there's a direct reason for them winning is due to him.
If Spencer Rattler can do what he did against Tennessee, Clemson, and Notre Dame, I know you don't like it. You mean to tell me that him going up against a worse defense, he's not going to find dudes wide ass open? They are horrible defensively. Horrible. Gene Chizik does not deserve to be a defensive coordinator, and you know that.
No, I don't disagree with that. But their success is so contingent on everybody's conversations about him on Spencer Rattler.
They lost Josh Downs. North Carolina lost Josh Downs, and nobody talks about that.
They still have other bodies, and Bryson Nesbitt is a really.
Why do you go up against Spencer Rattler and don't say anything about Drake May?
My whole point is that I have evidence of performance for Drake May of consistency and also being a much younger player, less experienced player. Spencer Rattler had 2 good games last year. 2. That Notre Dame performance, and we debated this, is not very good. I didn't think he played that well. He had multiple turnovers in that game. He played really well against Tennessee. He played the game of his life, and then he played really well against Clemson because he carried that momentum into the next game. Other than that, not only was he uninspiring, he was terrible in a lot of games. It was a running joke that he might not even finish the season as the starter. He was that bad at times for South Carolina. I just don't get this love for him. He was a former top-rated, highly sought-after recruit. I get it. But he has not been consistent. And if anything, he's been consistently bad if we're going to point to any quality plays on the field.
You better pray to God that Tez Walker, Nate McCullum, and those guys from North Carolina go off. Because their offensive line, Joe, that gave up all of those sacks last year, they did not add anybody. They added Will Lampkin out of the portal. And Miles Murphy's back at defensive tackle. Oh, okay. He got pushed around all over the field.
But Miles Murphy's not back.
Miles Murphy is back, right?
No. He's on the Bengals. Roro, and
no, there's
Tyler
2
Davis.
Miles Murphys.
Oh, wait, I don't know why we thought we were talking about Clemson. There's another Miles Murphy?
There's a Miles Murphy on North Carolina's team. He wears number 8.
Oh, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. You made me immediately go in a completely different trajectory. Sorry.
I did too. And then I went and watched North Carolina today and watched Rudy Poo State, Clapatulas State, all throw all over North Carolina. Joe, they were one of the worst Power 5 defenses in the country. And y'all sleeping on – give me South Carolina, man. Shane Beamer ball strikes again.
I don't know. I don't know how you can have that much confidence.
I don't. I don't.
You just want to hate on North Carolina.
I don't have faith in Spencer Rattler. You know what I have faith in?
What?
That Gene Chizik sucks. That's what I have faith in.
Let me ask you this. Games on the line. It's a shootout. It's high scoring. Drake May or Spencer Rattler. You pick Drake May, right?
South Carolina's got to win this game 24-21. They can't get in a shootout with them.
There's no way that's going to happen. This is going to be a shootout. Both teams suck defensively.
You mean to tell me that Drake May has not had bad games?
He has, but I really think that this game is going to be a shootout. It is built to be a shootout because both of these teams, again, as we've said, bad defensively, but really bad secondaries. It is going to be a disgusting score. I feel like this could be reminiscent of, do you remember the North Carolina App State game last year? It was like 63-60 or something stupid. I don't think it's going to be that, but it could be close to it.
Joe, that's my point. They put up that many points, and then the week before, barely, Appalachian State could barely get past the 50-yard line against Texas A&M. Barely. The one time they did, they scored a touchdown, and then they kicked the field goal late.
Look, I'm not saying that North Carolina is going to go to the college football playoff, and I know this is kind of hypocritical on what we've talked about with USC, but they don't need good defense to win games like South Carolina. It's going to hurt them when they play the important games on their schedule later on in the season, and it's going to hurt them from competing for an ACC championship. But South Carolina is not that formidable of an opponent. They're going to put points up on the board. And if one team is going to outscore the other, if this is a basketball game, I'm picking UNC.
This isn't a basketball game, but it's not a basketball game.
It kind of is. It kind of is.
All right. Well, listen, I'm just going to lean with Beamer because I don't trust North Carolina in anything they do not named Drake May. That's it.
All right. I get it.
You know a defense in the ACC that doesn't suck?
Clemson.
Duke. Dude, did you know that last year Duke legitimately was one of the top 25 teams in scoring defense last year? Did you know that?
Did not know that stat exactly, but I know that they have a very deceptively good and well-coached defense because Mike Elko, elite defensive coordinator, defensive mind from Notre Dame and Texas A&M, is the man leading that team.
Here's the problem. I know Riley Leonard returning for Duke, right?
Yep.
33 total touchdowns. Kid ran the ball a lot too.
Really good athlete.
Best defense in the country last season. One of the best defenses in the country last season. We talked about that. But Garrett Riley in this offense and Cade Klubnik's about to roll. I think they're gonna roll.
I had brought this game up on my potential upsets. I think that it is a potential upset, but I 1,000,000% agree with you. I think that Clemson wins this football game. I don't think it's going to be
that the Riley brothers had bad quarterback and bad offenses.
Exactly. I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
Tell me that Max Duggan can go off. What do you think Cade Klubnik's about to do? All right.
I
like Duke. I like Duke. I like their coach. I like Elko. Joe, they're not going to be able to stop a nosebleed with a tampon.
We are, in a way, buying a lot of stock in Klubnik for, I think he's like 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions or something like that. But I agree. I agree with you. This is going to be the beginning of a great season for Clemson. I think Duke's going to surprise some people, play him pretty close. I really like Riley Leonard. I think that Riley Leonard's really talented. Duke's offensive line, too, is really freaking good. It's one of the best in the ACC. Graham Barton is a guy who could get very highly drafted out of Duke. Strong, quality player. They're not going to have any trouble, I think, moving the ball in this game. But what is going to be a really difficult uphill task is that if Cade Klubnik, Garrett Riley are cooking, Will Shipley, things are cooking, everything's moving, they're putting up points, there's going to be some drives where Duke's going to get stalled because their defensive line, Clemson's defensive line, is just so freaking good. Tyler Davis, Roro are going to end up having opportunities to tee off on Riley Leonard no matter how good this offensive line is playing throughout that game.
I will say this. Riley Leonard ran for a lot of yards last year, had 33 touchdowns. If you do not keep contain on him, he will eat you alive. He will eat you alive. Look, I know a lot's been made about Clemson and their wide receivers, but I do think Garrett Riley schemes them open, and I do think that they could not, I do feel like Clemson's offense last year was written in crayon, okay? They've burnt that playbook. I talked to Dabo. They burnt the playbook and brought in Garrett Riley's.
Brought in the Bible, too, probably.
Hey, man. Here's the thing about Clemson, okay?
Yep.
We talk a lot of crap about Clemson, a lot, all right? A lot of it has to do with the BS that Dabo does off the field. People do not look at them at a holistic nature of the talent that they actually have. Joe, they've brought in multiple wide receivers that have been top 100 recruits in the country. Just because they did not have a good year last year does not mean that those kids are not talented. I can turn on the film and watch them run away from Notre Dame. Joe, they got missed. DJU missed. I counted this today. He missed 3 fade routes that might have been 6. 3 fade routes that might have been gone for touchdowns. What if Klubnik does put that up? That's not the receiver's fault that they're getting overthrown or getting underthrown. That's not on them. When you have receivers like South Carolina last year, I challenged everybody last year, go rewatch that South Carolina game and watch DJU underthrow everything, Joe, and it would get picked off, it'd get batted down, and meanwhile, you have a receiver running wide ass open that's trying to come back to the ball where it should be 6. You know why they had success? Because Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, those dudes did not miss those passes. Okay? And that's just the truth. All right. You want to get to our picks? Because I do think that this might take us a little time here. Because I want to give us some time on these picks.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, look, let's do this. Let's talk very quickly, 20 seconds about our good friends over at betonline.ag. Let's reset, get our picks in, and we'll roll from there. Don't go anywhere. We're going to give – I'm 5-0. Joe's 4-1.
Yeah, you got 1 point lead. Settle down there. Settle down.
No, but what I'm saying is if they use our games, they might win. They might win them some money.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I did put $20 on a parlay on my 5 last week and won.
It's not happening this week.
I hope so. All right, we're talking about BetOnline. Don't go anywhere. We give you our picks next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. All right, so Joe and I have picked from the following 5 games: North Carolina, South Carolina, LSU, Florida State, Duke and Clemson, Florida and Utah, and Colorado and TCU. So here is our picks for these games. Joe, let's start with Florida and Utah. I'm going to go with Florida. I'm going to go with Florida, and I'm going to take my points along with me. If you're going to give me 4.5, I'm going to take 4.5. I think Cam Rising thing is a big deal. I don't think people are giving Austin Armstrong, the new DC, a lot of credit because they just don't know him yet. He's come from lower levels. We've seen coaches like Pete Golding that get the Saban stamp of approval have a lot of success. I think defensively up front, they are better on film, and I've seen them up close. They can be better than Utah. Utah does not have the athletes up front that Florida does. They do not. I've seen the film. However, I do think that this is a field goal game. I think Florida with the points gives you that. So give me Florida and the points. If Utah wins by 3, I still win.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
no, we're doing straight game picks. These are straight game picks. Don't do because we had this conversation before.
Yeah, we did.
We had this conversation before, and I wanted to do betting picks, and then you wanted to go with pick 'em. We're not game picks. No cheating. No cheating.
No, we said that we know executive meeting. I said that if you make a pick and you say you want the points in it, you can do that. But I would probably do just a lot of pick-ems. You remember we had that conversation.
Okay, okay. Excuse me. Explain this to me though. If you're taking them with the points? Wait, This is confusing me now because if you're
you want to just do pick'ems and then
this is why I'm confused because then you can suddenly call in. Okay,
give me Florida still.
Okay,
still give me the points, but I want Florida.
I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not going to sit here and pick a team that is as young as they are. I'm not going to sit here and pick a team that has so many question marks to beat a team that won their conference. And I understand that they don't have their quarterback. There might be some other injuries. They lost one of their best defensive players last year. They are still one of the most well-coached teams in the country. They're also one of the most successful teams when playing at home, especially in an opportunity like this when you're facing an opponent that's traveling all the way across the country. This is all contingent on my lack of faith for Graham Mertz. I cannot put faith in Graham Mertz to put the team on his back like Anthony Richardson did last year. And I'm not going to. And I think this offense is going to struggle. And I think that Utah is going to have an easy time beating them by 10-plus points.
Stay with me on this. Stay with me.
Okay.
How do you think Peyton Thorne's going to do at Auburn? Do you think he's going to do good, bad, average? How do you think he's going to do?
average because he's a very average quarterback. Graham Mertz is much more.
Hold on, wait.
Okay.
If I put the numbers up side by side, which I did 3 months ago, you just forgot, Graham Mertz was better than him in conference games and top 10 games.
I think when you pull up the film though, it says otherwise. As I see a guy there are multiple games where Graham Mertz is melted down. He is melted down in a lot of games.
All right. Well, I'm just going to say one thing about Peyton Thorne and say, oh, he's average, and then say, oh, well, Graham Mertz still outdueled him. All right. But it's true. All right. Number 2, Joe, Colorado at TCU. We're both going TCU here. What do you think about this game? I know you said it earlier. You think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, it's really funny this week, too. We also pissed off Colorado fans by laughing at this game.
Oh, my God.
Dude, one guy was like, you talk shit now. It's just trying to uplift the community. And like, dude, it's Colorado. They're going to win 3 games, and it's going to be fun to talk about. And then next year, if there's going to be a real page, people don't understand. They don't understand how long it takes to completely shift a broken culture at a team for that has been bad for an extended period of time. Florida is one of them, and Colorado is one of them as well. I think that Sonny Dykes is just such a great coach, and their quarterback situation is not going to be as much of an issue as I think some people assume. Chandler Morris, really good player, and he's had some really good games under his belt, and he would have been the starter the whole year if Max Duggan hadn't have come out of nowhere. So I'm picking TCU. I don't think this should be a hard pick.
I'm picking TCU as well. I don't think it's a hard pick. 10 players on last year's roster returns for Colorado. I don't think that Coach Prime is going to be able to overcome that. For those reasons, I do think that they do some things. I do think Colorado shows flashes. They have too many playmakers to not show flashes. Okay, way too many. With that being said, though, I do think that this game is going to get a little. I think Colorado can keep it close a little bit early. Okay, maybe trade a couple blows with him, but when that depth chart starts, coming out and all of this, I think TCU rolls big time as well. Florida State and LSU, we did talk about this one, but I'm taking LSU. You're taking Florida State.
Yeah, just to reiterate the point that I had earlier, I take this down to the one position group matchup where I think that the advantage is it's significant. It's pretty significant. I hate to admit that. I want to go with LSU because I think that Brian Kelly is going to prepare his team for an important matchup on the schedule. But if this game comes down to a final drive, I think that I can trust Florida State secondary compared to LSU's.
I think that this, as we talked about earlier, comes down to, like you said, Brian Kelly, but I'm going to go the opposite route. I think that he prepares them to get them over the hump. Mm-hmm. I do think that this could be a special year for both teams. Joe, if I lose out on this one, I might be upset that LSU would lose as a fan and a guy that covers them every day. The realistic nature of it is if they were to lose, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, let me give an example. I wasn't really shocked last year when they got beat by A&M, as most people were, because I spent the whole week saying don't overlook them. This would be I just wouldn't be shocked if LSU were to lose. That's how I'll just leave it there because I can get windy on that one. Clemson, Duke, both of us go Clemson. I just think that Clemson rolls here. I think Riley's got this offense coming. I think they're too athletic. I really do think that they're going to put. I think if Dabo gets up early, and they, if they were in a, early fourth quarter, mid fourth quarter, even if they're up by like 14, 20, whatever, he's going to want to go for the jugular to say that we're back to some extent. I think this game could get ugly. I take Clemson.
I don't know if it gets ugly, but I'm leaning Clemson on this one. I think that there's a delineation between upset watch and upset capability. I think Duke, if everything goes according to plan, Riley Leonard looks really freaking good. They come out swinging, they could win this game, but I'm still sticking with Clemson because just roster front to back, brand new offensive coordinator, 5-star quarterback. They've got everything. They got everything to go on a run, and this could be the start of it.
Anonymous says, get ready to be shocked again. I just said I wouldn't be shocked, though. See what I mean with Florida State fans? I literally just said I wouldn't be shocked. He goes, get ready to get shocked again. Like, bro, I'm not sticking my finger into a light socket to get shocked. I wouldn't be, come on, dude. All right, the last game that we have here. South Carolina, this is a neutral site game, but technically North Carolina is at South Carolina. You go South Carolina, or I go South Carolina, you go UNC.
Yeah, as I said before, I really do think that this is just going to be the sloppy, terrible defensive game. This is going to be fun. I think there's going to be some fireworks. There's going to be like, oh my God, UNC and South Carolina are still within one score, and they both just scored again. There's going to be a lot of points on the board in this game. But if it comes down to it, I'm picking the guy with the team with the better quarterback. The guy to trust is Drake May. I have no reason to trust Spencer Rattler. The most recent example of him having to win a close game was that Notre Dame game. Didn't play very well. So I'm gonna pick UNC, and I'm gonna trust Drake May.
I just can't, like, dude, you know me well enough by now to know this. And look,
yeah.
It's what's made I've made a little bit of a name for myself for doing stuff like this. I do feel confident about these two things in Cam Rising in North Carolina. And look, sometimes when I have these feelings, ultimately it's just hot gas, and I need to let some gas out. Okay, not like my name's General Booty Pauls. I just cannot get my mind around. I know that Spencer Rattler is a average to a maybe slightly above average quarterback. I'm not coming out here saying he's going to kill everybody that he plays.
Yeah.
I just do not trust UNC. Joe, if you gave them all the tampons in the world, they couldn't stop a paper cut. They couldn't. They are horrendous defensively.
I understand.
Up front, they were giving up 170 yards on the ground.
Can I point something out? Can I point something out? Did you notice you realized you picked all SEC teams? I just had to point that out. The only game that's not an SEC, there's two non-SEC matchups.
Hold on, because if I did, I'm about to change some shit up right now.
It's too late. They're on the graphic, Blake.
Fuck, I did. All right, I'm just gonna give up this week. I hate when I do stuff like that.
What do you mean give up? I mean, you could end up being right. I just found that funny.
You better pray that I'm wrong.
I think that I'm gonna regain or tie with you.
Well, Thursday we have two games. Either you're gonna be 2-0, or I'm gonna be 2-0.
Colorado TCU's on Saturday.
No, but UNC in Florida and Utah, they're on Thursday, right?
Florida, Utah's on Thursday.
And in South Carolina and UNC, or no?
Saturday, because that's where College Game Day is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I did not.
I just got a laugh out of that. I had to point that out. I mean, you're.
But you didn't pick an SEC team. As much as you say I picked,
wait,
you didn't even pick one.
Oh man,
you're like the Danny Cannell of the show. You hate the SEC.
It's like the Spider-Man meme. We're pointing at each other.
You didn't take the SEC. You took the whole ACC. Well, you didn't take any. I
didn't even realize that.
If you didn't have to put Georgia in your playoff, you would take every SEC team and throw them out.
No. Actually, that is true. I only had one SEC team in my playoff. I'm not an SEC hater. I am not an SEC hater.
SEC won 14 of the last 20 national titles.
Yeah, you guys have Georgia. You have Georgia to carry you.
Okay. Joe, can I tell you the national since 2003 who holds the most national championships in football? Number 1, Bama. Okay. Number 1's Alabama. Do you know who number 2 is?
LSU.
Do you know who number 3 is?
Georgia?
It's a tie.
Ohio
Clemson,
State?
Georgia, Ohio State.
Okay.
Wait, no. They won one. The last one before the one with the playoff was 2002, was it not? Yeah, 2002. They've only won one. So the top the top 3 are Southeast teams. Louisiana, Alabama, Auburn's got one up in there.
I don't know, man. It could be a down year for the SEC this year.
Yeah. Okay. See, Pooh Bear's right. To you, Joe. He's saying that to you. Don't do drugs.
Drugs are fun. I'm joking. I don't do drugs.
You had to say this. We're about to get demonetized.
We're not going to get. Oh, that's not going to get us demonetized. It was in jest.
Well, that's what you do with drugs, ingest.
No, I was joking is what I meant.
Do you like the dad joke there, though? Is that a pretty good
Yes.
All right. Well, look. So just before we get out of here, this is our pick. These are our picks. Deal with it. Somebody's not going to be happy. What if one of them ends in a tie somehow?
That's not physically possible.
Well, technically,
not possible.
Technically, it could be.
No,
like if there's if both teams are tied at 10 and there's a lightning delay.
Yeah, when was the last time that happened? That they didn't try to finish the football game?
Didn't it happen to LSU, McNeese State? Oh, or did they not play the game?
Yeah, wait, that was last year when that happened?
No, it's like 2017, 2018. They only had one drive. Okay, there you go. I'm just saying, man, it's going to be a fun weekend. I'm ready to watch you lose.
We'll see. Football's back, baby.
Football's back. We're not even doing an AYS show tomorrow.
Why not?
I mean,
getting ready.
Do you want me to go on the first real game of college football?
That's true. That's a good point.
I got 4 Florida State shows I have to go on tomorrow. These dudes are four.
You're the authority on LSU, man.
One at 1, one at 2, one at 3:30, and then one at like 7 or 6:30.
They're gonna hate you. They're gonna give you so much shit.
Yeah, people are gonna be tired of listening to my big ass. All right, we'll see y'all Sunday, right? We'll pregame some LSU and we'll recap the week 1 games, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, see y'all then. Y'all have a good night. Peace.